Hi everybody. In this chapter we're looking at lesson 1.3. That's the lesson that is called Mechanisms of Homeostasis. And homeostasis is kind of an interesting word. It's made out of two Greek words. The first part of the word homeo comes from homo, which means same. And the second part of the word stasis comes from the word stasis that gives us things like stability and stable. And it's more of a verb that means to keep something the same. So homeostasis means working to keep something from changing, basically, or working to keep something the same, or working to keep something in balance. And I realized a really good example of maintaining homeostasis is how a toilet tank maintains the right water level. Now, homeostasis is a word that's normally just used in biology, but we can use it in other areas also. And so here's a fun little video about how a toilet works and how the water in the toilet tank stays at the same level. Let's have a look.
This is a quick overview of how a toilet works. First, let's go over the different parts of the toilet. The handle, tank, bowl, fill valve, flush valve, overflow tube, flapper. When the handle is pushed, it pulls up on a chain connected to a flapper. The flapper lifts and releases the tank water down the flush valve into the bowl. The water then goes through the trap and into the main drain. Once the tank is empty, the flapper closes, forming a seal in the tank until the next time the handle is pushed. The fill valve turns on and brings water from the water supply into the tank. Water will flow through the base of the valve and through the refill tube to the overflow tube. As the water rises in the tank, the float rises. Your float may look like this or this. The float will rise and shut the valve off, stopping the water once it reaches the fill line. For more information about toilet products, go to corky.com.
Okay, before we take a few minutes to go through the chapter, let's talk about that video. So there are a couple of things that happen there that you're going to see repeatedly as we talk about homeostasis in biology. Maybe the most important one was the diagram where they showed us the different parts of the toilet. And you need to know what the parts are so that you can understand how they all fit together to maintain homeostasis. So as we go forward looking at examples of homeostasis, remember that we're going to be interested in what the parts are, how the parts work together, what is it that causes the move away from homeostasis, that is, what is the input, and how does the system get back to homeostasis. I didn't mean to use the word system there because I wanted to use it here. Obviously, what we're looking at when we're thinking about homeostasis are systems that maintain homeostasis. We're looking at the parts of systems that are able to bring the overall balance of the organism, the cell, the process, whatever it is, back into balance. Let's take a look at an overview of the chapter here. So to find the chapter, I'm going to go to the Google Waffle and down here to the HMH Ed app. I'm going to sign in with my school account. And once the dashboard comes up, I click Discover, then Unit 1, which is over here to the side. And we're going to look at the student ebook. Let me get this lined up here. Okay, we're going to look at the student ebook, and we actually want to go to Lesson 3, Mechanisms of Homeostasis. And we're just going to begin at the beginning here. So here's a quick example of homeostasis that has to do with maintaining your body temperature. Your body temperature has to stay very close to the normal value, or bad things can happen. And the first exploration has to do with generally how control systems work. Control systems are what maintain homeostasis. And there are lots of different examples of homeostasis that we're going to be looking at. But the idea is that we want to maintain whatever the thing is that we're paying attention to, whether it's body temperature or breathing or blood pressure or blood sugar or any of 1,000 other things. Those things need to be in balance for organisms to work properly. And systems, control systems, exist to bring these things back into balance when necessary. And let's take a look at, first of all, some of the words that are important. A stimulus is something that causes a change or an imbalance. Receptors are what recognize stimuli. Examples of receptors and stimuli that are important in the human body are things like hormones and their receptors. Here it mentions hormones down here. But let's take a look. This is a fun activity. You can do at home, by the way. But let's take a look at a negative feedback loop, because the way a toilet tank stays full is an example of negative feedback. In negative feedback, something changes, and then in order to return to balance, the opposite of the change has to happen. So here we have a receptor detects change. Now you might think about what in the toilet system is the receptor. We're talking about maintaining the correct water level in the tank. What is it about that system that maintains the correct water level in the tank? Well, that receptor detects change, and it says, whoa, there's an imbalance. And so something called an effector carries out a response to try to correct the imbalance. Now, in the toilet tank system, what is the effector? What is it that is going to put water back into the tank to correct the imbalance? And the receptor compares the water level to what the water level should be, compares the actual water level to what the water level should be, that is the set point. And at some point, the receptor is going to find out that there is no imbalance, and so the toilet tank will be back at homeostasis. That's negative feedback, where the return to balance happens in the opposite direction of the original change. There's also such a thing as positive feedback. In positive feedback, where did it go? Positive feedback, the return to balance happens in the same direction as the original change. And there are examples of both of these in organisms, and you'll want to be able to recognize them. That's how you recognize them. One corrects the imbalance by moving in the opposite direction of the original change, and the other one corrects the imbalance by moving in the same direction as the original change. So we're going to be reading about several different kinds of homeostasis in the human body, and how different organisms, or rather different organ systems, work together. So a great example is maintaining blood sugar. Maintaining blood sugar involves your pancreas, your liver, and although they're not listed here, also fat cells. And there are hormones and receptors that work together to maintain blood glucose levels. Another example, maintaining carbon dioxide concentrations. There are a number of examples here. I'm not going to talk about all of them because you're going to read about all of them. And the third exploration has to do with homeostasis in other organisms. So we see how plants manage gas exchange. Photosynthesis happens inside of cells that are inside of leaves. And you probably have learned that there are little things called stomata on the surface of leaves that can open or close to let air go in and out of the inside of the leaf. And there's a big open space inside the leaf where the air goes. And what happens is carbon dioxide comes in, the carbon dioxide gets turned into sugar by photosynthesis. Also, oxygen comes in because plants also need oxygen. Plants have mitochondria and chloroplasts. The chloroplasts use carbon dioxide and the mitochondria use oxygen. And there are other examples. Again, I'm not going to talk about the examples in detail because you're going to read about them. So this whole chapter is all about homeostasis, bringing things back into balance when they get out of balance.